Senator Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks to all of our witnesses here today. Ms. Robinson, I want to follow up by trying to understand your answer to one of Senator Cruz's questions. And this is really a question, not a suggestion. Do I understand your position to be that there are two sexes, but there can be more than two genders?
What happens when common sense meets woke confusion head-on in a Senate hearing? This week, Senator John Kennedy did what few in Washington dare to do. He asked the tough questions that cut straight through the nonsense. When one witness claimed there could be infinite genders, Kennedy didn't hold back. He brought logic, biology, and courage right to the heart of the debate. But what happened next will tell you everything you need to know about where our country's headed. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because here, we cut through the noise and get straight to what really matters for America's future.
Senator Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks to all of our witnesses here today. Ms. Robinson, I want to follow up by trying to understand your answer to one of Senator Cruz's questions. And this is really a question, not a suggestion. Do I understand your position to be that there are two sexes, but there can be more than two genders?
I wouldn't even say two, and we've got Dr. Lopez here as well, but there's also the definition of intersex. I think that often in these conversations we're conflating sex and gender, and I do want to affirm here that trans women are women. That is their gender.
Okay, but I'm trying to understand. Do you make a distinction between sex and gender?
Yes, sir.
Okay, explain that. Just. Do you think there are more than two sexes?
I believe that there's a definition for intersex as well that I want to acknowledge. But sex is assigned at birth.
Three? I'm just trying to understand. I'm thoroughly confused. So you're born, I'm talking about biology, male, female, and what else?
I believe that intersex is also acknowledged, but again, I'm not a doctor here. What I can
and
say
what does intersex mean?
Is that there's a difference between sex and gender, and I think in these conversations we're conflating the two.
Well, but I want to start with sex. Okay, there's male, there's female. When a baby's born, before the baby has had time to even have a sense of self, there's male, female, and intersex. There's a third.
I believe that is true, but I would defer to Dr. Lopez as I'm not a physician.
Okay. And how many genders are there?
I think the gender is expansive, and the definitions are always growing. Today I can tell you, I talk to young people that talk about non-binary as...
More than five?
I think the gender is not a binary, is what I'm trying to say.
Are there more than five genders? I'm just trying to understand. Are there more than five genders?
Well, I think that there was a time where women wearing pants didn't feel like it was appropriate for their gender, and yet I'm wearing pants today. I think that there are ways that we express our gender that are expansive.
Are there more than five?
I wouldn't subject myself to naming how many genders there are, but what I can say is that gender is a reflection.
Number?
Excuse me?
There's an infinite number of genders?
I think depending on your culture, there are a lot of different genders that exist. And I can also say that it's a term that's evolving. If you look at young people today, they really don't lean into the binary of only woman and man. So I think that it's incumbent upon us not to legislate on this, but create space for them to explore what their identities are, what their gender identities are.
All right. Let's get back to athletics. I think I understand what you're saying. There are three sexes. Male, female, and intersex.
I believe that to be true, but again, I'm not a physician.
And there are an infinite number of genders because gender is a mental state.
Gender is about expression, and I think that there are a variety of ways that you can express your gender.
Okay, so there's infinite number. All right, let's go back to the biology. Male, female, boy, girl, okay? Biologically, do males have an advantage over females biologically in sports?
Again, I'm not a physician and I can't speak to that.
What's your real world experience?
It depends. I mean, there are some people who are born male that I'm faster than if I were to sprint against them, and some that I'm not. Some males that are taller than some women, and some that are shorter.
You don't believe that a biological male has a physical advantage in sports over a biological female?
Not as a definitive statement.
Give me an example. Well, no, I don't think. How many female members of the NBA do you see?
Well, I can say that, there's been this news article about men that think that they could beat Serena Williams in tennis, right? That they think that they could actually score a point on her. And it's just not the case. She is stronger than that.
What's your experience, Ben? Male, female?
Both Serena and Venus lost to the 203rd ranked male tennis player, which they're phenoms for women. My experience, my husband, he swam at University of Kentucky as well. In terms of accolades and in terms of national ranking, I was a much better swimmer than him. He could kick my butt any day of the week without trying.
Okay. I just think, Ms. Robinson, I'm trying to understand where you're coming from. I think you lose a lot of credibility when you don't concede that a biological male has physical advantages over a biological female. I mean, I just think that's a proven fact, and you really hurt your credibility. I understand you want the world to be a better place. I do too, and I don't think people ought to be discriminated against because of an immutable characteristic. I don't. And I think that I think everybody ought to be free to be themselves. And what you do in your bedroom or what I do in my bedroom with a consenting adult is nobody's business. But if what I do in my bedroom with a consenting adult, if I decide I want to tell somebody's child about it, then other people have rights too. And I think parents have rights. And I think biological females have rights to be able to compete fairly in sport, in sports. So I really think you hurt your credibility when you refuse to acknowledge that biological males have an advantage over biological females. It kind of makes me wonder about all your testimony. Thank you,
Senator
Mr. Chairman.
Kennedy. I'm sorry, go ahead.
What I'm trying to say is that there is not a definitive advantage in all cases. Sir, I don't know if you believe that you could beat Serena Williams in tennis, but I probably think that that's not the case. There are not all cases where all men are physically superior to all women. And at the end of the day, in this conversation, we're not talking about that. We're talking about trans women who are, in fact, women, who deserve to play in a gender that matches their sports, who deserve all the benefits that Ms. Gaines is talking about. And as a cisgender black woman, I can say definitively that my womanhood is not threatened by a transgender person asserting hers as well.
Senator Hirono.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thank all of the persons who are testifying today. For Ms. Robinson, do you know what...
Senator John Kennedy has done it again, standing up for truth and logic in a world that's losing both. In a recent Senate hearing, Kennedy questioned Ms. Robinson about one of the most controversial issues of our time, sex and gender. What he got in response wasn't clarity. It was confusion, contradiction, and pure ideological spin. Ms. Robinson began by saying that sex and gender are different concepts. She described gender as expansive and constantly evolving. But when Kennedy asked a simple, factual question, how many sexes are there, she couldn't give a straight answer. Instead, she brought up intersex, deferred to another witness, and refused to clearly say whether there are only two sexes, male and female. Then came the real moment. Kennedy asked how many genders there are. Ms. Robinson's answer? There could be an infinite number of genders. Think about that. Infinite. That's the kind of answer that tells you this isn't about science anymore. It's about ideology. It's about pushing a belief system that says truth doesn't exist, that biology doesn't matter, and that anyone who questions it is somehow hateful. Kennedy, being the straight shooter he is, pressed further. He asked what this means for policy, especially when it comes to sports and fairness for women. That's when things got even murkier. Ms. Robinson argued that we shouldn't legislate gender definitions, and that society should let people explore their identities. In other words, she believes feelings should dictate law, not facts. When Kennedy asked whether biological males have an advantage over biological females in sports, she still wouldn't give a clear answer. Instead, she dodged, saying that athletic ability varies individually. Kennedy pushed back, pointing out the obvious, that biology gives males physical advantages. And he was absolutely right. Every major study, every ounce of common sense, every real-world example shows that male athletes have natural physical advantages over females. It's not bigotry. It's biology. But what Kennedy did next was even more important. He reminded everyone listening that fairness and freedom go hand in hand. He said he doesn't believe anyone should be discriminated against for who they are, but that doesn't mean we should destroy truth in the process. He stood up for women's sports, for parents' rights, and for the idea that what happens in private stays private, but what's taught to children and put into law affects everyone. And that's the point. This isn't about hate or exclusion. It's about standing on solid ground, on truth. You can't build a fair or free society when you're not allowed to say basic facts like men and women are different. Senator Kennedy was trying to have an honest conversation rooted in reality. The fact that the witness couldn't even admit to biological truth shows how deep this ideological sickness runs. As a patriot, I'll tell you this. America was built on truth, courage, and common sense, not confusion, censorship, or political correctness. And it's going to take voices like Kennedy's and people like you to stand up and say, enough. If we don't protect truth, we lose fairness. If we don't protect fairness, we lose freedom. It's that simple. So let's keep pushing back against the narrative that says gender is infinite and biology is optional. Because the moment we stop defending truth is the moment we lose everything that makes this country worth fighting for. Before you go, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications. We're going to keep calling out this kind of nonsense every single week because America deserves better than confusion disguised as compassion.